Okay. Howdy, everybody. So today, what I'd like to do is to basically. Oh, wait, I'm hearing some feedback. Bad Twitch. Okay, so yeah, basically what I'm gonna do today is do a bit of brainstorming with various methods to improve farming efficiency and innate fertility in a province using large-scale infrastructure events that are activated by the province interaction button, and possibly a few other things that you guys might think of. Okay, so we'll document those ideas on a nice little notepad. But as you can see here, we have irrigation canals in Granada, and they're kind of a mix of a number of things. So you can see it gives you a base. There's 3 levels so far. You guys want some coffee, by the way? You can have some. Yum. Feel guilty consuming yummy things in front of you. Yeah, you can see here, irrigation canals gives you 10% farming efficiency base. Base innate fertility +3, so it automatically gives you +3 more population that can live there. And then there's an innate fertility multiplier, which multiplies the entire value, and then some famine resistance as well. Yeah, so I mean, that's all subject to change. I just kind of rigged something up in the localizations and made the buildings, did some of the groundwork. Shouldn't be too difficult to make to officially integrate these into the game. I just need to create a new option here, and then make it similar to when you construct roads, right? I'd like more variability as far as what you can use to do it. So it'd be cool if you could use any one of your monarch points on that project. That way it can also act as a monarch point sink if you're doing especially well, or if you just happen to have tons of military points that you want to cash in for something else. Yeah, so Elysian, with the multiplier, the thing is, the cost of canals will scale based on how much arable land is in the province. So a province in Bengal, if you want to build canals there, is going to be like bitch crazy expensive, because they have a lot of innate fertility right off the bat. Whereas if you were building them in Ireland, they'd be significantly cheaper because there's just not as much innate fertility there. And so, right, so we'll have... So for instance, you can see the base innate fertility +3, that'll be a base cost. And then we'll add in the cost of whatever the rest of your innate fertility is in the province. So it should scale. So if you want to build lots of canals in highly populated places, it'll be extremely expensive. Significantly cheaper in other locations. Okay, so that's the general idea. So I guess what we'll do first is, since some of you guys seem to already have some ideas, we can go into ideas other than the canal line, of how you might think that innate fertility or farming efficiency could be improved. I have a few other ideas. I'll let you guys mention your ideas first, though. I'm not sure, Wargy, why canals would necessarily boost urban gravity, because remember, the more food you have in a province, the more it drives up city growth. More percentage extra food equals more city growth, and so it would seem like you're double dipping there to add urban gravity too. It would be double growth, and I'm not sure what the reasoning would be either. These canals, so by the way, these canals are not shipping canals. They're not canals like the Kiel Canal or Sinai Canal or Panama Canal. They're specifically irrigation canals, which, by the way, aren't necessarily... I mean, some irrigation canals you can jump across, but the idea is that you dig a canal to pull water from a river to nearby farmlands that aren't necessarily super far away, to land that would otherwise be cultivatable, but simply do not have the water for it. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it's like so you need a river to actually. So for instance, all through Andalusia, you had irrigation canals historically before this time frame, back when it was Al-Andalus, and basically land that was really, you know, maybe 10, 15 kilometers away from the river wasn't easily arable, but you know, some minor distance canals allowed, you know, land out around here and out around here and here to be farmable more easily and reliably, because you didn't need to rely on rainwater. This isn't canals that are pulling water like, you know, crazy long distances, right? Yeah, and so in irrigation, you had local farm irrigation, right, which was just pulling water directly from a water source, which was not very sophisticated. Peasants could do it relatively easily. But then you had these large public works irrigation canals that took water much further distance, and it took a lot more planning. It took a lot more you know, organization, a lot more resources, and it usually involved some higher degree of government participation because of the size of the extent of the cost, right? I don't have a good point. How much pretty much every province has rivers, so the irrigation should be possible regardless of in-game rivers. I mean, that's fine, but on the same token, and that's true, but on the same token, you know, if there's not a, you know, a river in the desert, you shouldn't be building a canal there, you know. So I don't know. So, I mean, it seems sensible just to have canals buildable where there currently are rivers. Doesn't seem too illogical. It's a pretty easy way. I mean, you can see all of these provinces will be flagged because they have rivers. Let me catch up with the comments. Canals should turn into water systems for irrigation like the original idea. Sanitation to prevent plagues, while boosting growth of communities since they would have access to better water. Yeah, it's kind of... I mean, theoretically, if we wanted to add urban gravity percentage to canals, then that would give a boost to, you know, to cities. But then you have cost issues, because if the cost scales with Innate Fertility, then it's super easy to get a boost to urban growth in Granada and super difficult to get it in places that, you know, have higher, you know, like I think, yeah, London has a larger rural population, or for instance Prague, right? Even though Prague is like got plenty of rivers, I'd say, yeah, I think I want to keep, when it comes to irrigation canals and dams and stuff like that, I want to try to keep direct urban gravity stats out of the equation, because it gets complicated and kind of gamey. They should count, let's see, as a negative, each level should make it, siege. It's getting a little complicated. They should counter the lack of natural water, not create a surplus of innate fertility in early well-hydrated areas. Yeah, we're slightly limited in what we can do. I want to try to avoid having too many situations where you have tons and tons of different types of the same buildings, but just for slightly different landscapes, then it gets clunky and hard to learn, and the system kind of becomes nonsensical. Yeah, the Canal system, not sure I'm pronouncing it properly, but I was definitely thinking that that it would be a good idea to try to get aquifers in Persia, since they played such a significant role historically. But that'll probably have to come second, and I'll need a special system for it. Yeah, Elysian, they do nowadays have an irrigation system in Saudi Arabia, but you know, you can afford all the all of the water treatment and desalination plants you want when you have like infinite energy. But the idea of irrigation canals in every province gets tricky. What I was thinking was, in theory, allowing you to build irrigation canals adjacent to a province which also has an irrigation canal. So, for instance, if you build one in like, I don't know, yeah, it's complicated though, because then you have landscape. You don't want irrigation canals going up and over mountains and things like that. Yeah, it just gets complicated. I was thinking of having, Lorena could have a irrigation canal if Seville has one. And it's because you pull the water over, but then it gets kind of weird because of the landscape. You shouldn't be able to build a canal over a mountain or something like that. Oh, let me change my description here. Brainstorming on how to improve innate fertility and farming efficiency by active measures. Canals would help with farming in arid areas and help against flood in big river areas. We don't have the, unless you make alternative versions of the building for each contingency, then you can't really do that GRX. I mean, it might be a little, I mean, that's the thing, you'd have to make replicates of all the buildings for each specific circumstance, and not only replicates for the buildings, you'd have to make replicates for every single level of the building, and then have parallel code and parallel localizations, and then you'd have to explain in the localization why it doesn't look the same in different provinces, and it gets, with the tools we have, it gets pretty clunky. Aqueducts would be interesting at some point to integrate into where is it? Into city infrastructure. Right, like City Hall. What we were thinking about doing eventually was changing all the city infrastructure to actually be more functional, like having aqueducts and stuff like that. Yeah, Ocularius. Local irrigation isn't a big deal. Directly adjacent a river. That's part of what we assume is in the farming efficiency value here when as wealth is being invested into it. The question is when you try to pull that water someplace further, with a relatively wide and long canal. That's when it gets to be more expensive and more difficult. And if you need to raise the water, for instance, that's an issue too, because you need to build water wheels along the way and things like that. Using climate, irrigation canals in the Netherlands would be pretty weird. Well, let's look at our climate map. I mean, don't have that much to work at because this is all considered temperate. Someone made a script to flag all of the rivers as well, so we have all the river provinces we need. Canals on the Nile drain the water out. Well, it does. In some rivers, like the Colorado River and here in the United States, it's used so much for irrigation that it can't even make it to the ocean. But that would be a bit much for this era. Yeah, David, this would be so much easier in C++. Trust me, I know. Thanks, William Coney. Thanks for the work you've done with M&T. Yeah, David, by the way, is David Bunk is attempting to work on the an engine for us for Songs of the Aeons. You know, that will be complementary to our objectives, so it'll be interesting to see how he does with that. Okay, so Demian would like to point out something from my current game is KOJ, the major city province flag. Does that still exist? Yeah, it's supposed to be. I'll check to see if the major city thing is still around. They're supposed to all be removed, so they may exist at game start and then get removed immediately after. Hey, Anoni. New watcher, long time new player. Hey, Space Marine. Yeah, so everyone who's just showed up recently, we're doing some brainstorming with some new features to be added that I was thinking about adding pertaining to irrigation canals and stuff like that. AKA Allie. Okay, so unfortunately, it sounds like it basically shot down a lot of your ideas. Someone mentioned the aquifers, and I'll see if I can. We have some extra pictures we could use for the aquifers, and if that's the case, it should be relatively easy to make that. Someone also mentioned that it looked like. Oh, William Coney, you can give Jerusalem major city after game start. Okay, I'll have to find that. I'm not sure what the modifier is named, so if you can get the decision for me, like the decision ID or something like that, I can nail it pretty quick. But yeah, no, Canals, there's a lot of work to still do on Canals because, I mean, the picture is in, the building is in, some of the localizations are in, but what matters is all the code associated with this right here. So if you guys, so hopefully I won't shoot anyone down too much this time, but we need ideas for how to contribute to the construction of canals. And the idea is they're supposed to be pretty damn expensive. And so obviously you can spend money, you can spend manpower, and I'd like to make it so that you can spend any of your monarch points. But that has to come along with something. So for instance, when we go here to construct a road and use manpower, we can see that it uses admin points and manpower, right? So something needs to go along with the monarch points themselves, right? And so I'd like to have an option for each one. Repopulate Jerusalem. Someone. Okay, I'm gonna find that real quick. Oops. I'm gonna just search for it on a separate screen. Indecisions, so we can nail that bug right there. I'm a little bit rusty. I've been away from modding for a little while. Okay. Repopulates Jerusalem. There it is. I may just remove it as a decision. Yeah, it's kind of antiquated. I'm just gonna remove it. Because there's already a million ways you can repopulate it, so not really meaningful. Okay, it's gone. Thank you. I'm a fan of not using admin points. Actually, guys, I was wondering, should I actually change this to military points instead of admin points, even with roads and forts? Would that make more sense? Because it seems like mill points are like the big thing that like you use. I mean, excuse me, the thing you usually have a surplus of. I mean, we have to consider that the canals are a solution to a problem of lack of water, and that is not universal. We don't need to have multiple versions of this same building. We'll get back to that in a bit. Maybe admin plus money, diplo plus reputation and prestige, military plus manpower, legitimacy. Admin plus money, diplo plus reputation and prestige. Oh, you know what? So here's the thing, that the costs have to be scaled, right? So remember, the admin, it costs more. It costs the same manpower, but different admin in this case, depending on the size of your country. So if this were China, it would take like 3 admin points. And so if you were dealing with prestige or something like that. But that actually, Space Marine, that's an interesting idea, because we can have a diplomacy option for bringing in foreign manpower to work on it instead. And so that would cost prestige and possibly diplomatic reputation. So that's an interesting, let's write that down. That could be a viable. Prestige is a lot more important now, so. Uses foreign manpower, and it ends up costing prestige and maybe other blow-related stuff. Maybe not. Admin can be an option. Mill costs, and we'll make this manpower. And we'll, let's see. Okay, so before we do that, let's go. Everyone seems to think, oh yeah, military. Let me check with forts. Like I said, it's been a while. So let's check forts. I think it's admin too, which is, yeah, it is admin. All right, let's go ahead and change that now. I think that'll be better for the game, because it seems like everyone is always starved of admin stuff, of admin points. So let's go to Dev interactions, upgrade roads, this is all cardinal stuff. Looks like I should have labeled things better. Admin cost A, admin cost B. 25%, 35%. So let's test this out real quick. Really simple solution can simply be, I'm going to highlight this entire thing and make all instances of admin millet and selection. Okay. Oops, no. I'll just do something stupid. No, I'm good. Okay. All right, so let's test that real quick. Save it. And if it works right, we'll apply it to forts as well. Yeah, Cowboy Dang, the weird bug relating to 0 manpower is unfortunately not fixed because it's Paradox changed what the code meant, and there's like 1,000 instances of that code in other people's works. I don't use any of that code myself. I use my own manpower tools that I made myself, which is much more precise. You know, you could track variables better that way. But you know, Harper has a lot of that stuff in his old religion code. No one seems to want to go through there and fix it all. So yeah. So that, yeah, I don't know when that would be fixed. It's all part of the big black box of degradation, unfortunately. Yeah, I think, Jacob, you're suggesting admin for roads. I kind of would agree with that, except that there's so many things now in game that admin is used for, and so few things that military points are used for. And so I think it would be good. I mean, you're using manpower, directing people to do things, so it kind of makes sense that it would be kind of a military operation. Let's go to Granada because obviously it's the best place to test things. This may not work. No, it does work. Cool. All right, so that's fixed. That was easier than I thought. It's kind of a lucky guess. All right, so let me document this better so when I come back next time, I'll know what I'm doing. Okay, that was a lot further down than I thought. Kind of winging it right now because I haven't looked at this code in so long. Manpower cost. I know, David, you're probably looking at this right now and flipping out because this would be so much easier in C++. This would be maybe 1/5 of the code, which is why I'm really, really itching to get Songs of the Aeons going. But I do feel like I have to finish what I started with Meiou and taxes. Uh, 39 instances. Should be good. Okay, so I'm going to test this as well. And then catch up with your comments. Yeah, Petru, I was wondering how the whole foreign manpower thing was going to be done. The thing is, though, it doesn't necessarily... I hate making events that make stuff come from nothing. But the thing is, you don't necessarily have to solicit manpower from a government to get manpower, right? So it's conceivable that you could always, it can kind of be a catch-all. It could be, you know, because in theory you could be asking your estates too. You could be, you could be asking nearby countries. You could, right? There's a lot of places you could get manpower other than just from foreign countries, right? You can get them from your nobles or whatever. Yeah, Cowboy Dang. I do still think that for Canals specifically, we should have admin, military, and a diplomatic option. We can still do that. Building a project is not something that should cost prestige. It is if it is kind of if you have to ask other people to do it for you. I need to catch up for real. Anoni, as far as the Byzantine stuff is concerned, it may have been IMSI. You can ask in the general forum and ask Gigao. He'd probably know. I'll ask him right now in Slack, but I know he's off to dinner. So. About forcing smaller cities to migrate the population to bigger cities. That's sort of a separate subject, Nikos. And not something done super often in this period. I mean, Timur did, but yeah, the whole spending manpower, costing military points is mainly a it's a lot of it's a balanced consideration. Oh, Cowboy Dang tells me to go to my Twitch thingy and add in. Let's see. Is it possible to add multiple categories? Oh, I guess so. Europe Universalis 4, Meiou, and Texas. Okay, I'm going to do all of it. Please choose a supported game. I guess Meiou and Texas is not a supported game. That's fine. Hey, Europa Universalis is a support game. I guess I can only do one. Okay. Yeah, I guess I can only do one. Maybe. Yeah. Alright, Europa Universalis 4. Okay. Okay, I will catch up to everybody. True, so when the prices for making the whole state. All right. I mean, so maybe, yeah, the whole foreign manpower thing gets a little odd because, yeah, because you'd have to pay them too. It gets kind of complicated. Maybe just an ask estates for manpower to build the canals. I mean, that's an easy way around it too. Is Barbary Raid Coast back? No, it's not. It's a very kind of unbalanced thing. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and go back to our little brainstorm sheet thingy. Okay. Mill cost is for manpower. Uses estate manpower. And what that'll do is it will remove some of the estate's money to represent that you are, you know, bumming manpower off of them. It would remove their resources, William. Kind of like how you can already request manpower from estates, but it's just they don't have their own manpower pools, and so whenever you request manpower from them, it comes out of their money, because to some extent, you know, it would be fungible. You know, it probably doesn't need to involve prestige. It can, the Diplo costs slightly higher than mill costs since you aren't using your own manpower, and costs estate treasury. Last Resort says, there is a bug in the current game where if your tag exists and is removed, then is added back, your nation still pays for its court costs. Well, it is technically... I did make the court cost system. So, all of those modifiers are automatically removed every census, Last Resort. So every year, all of the modifiers are wiped out, regardless of whether of what happens to be happening. So I can get a more detailed, yeah. I'll deal with it later, so we don't get too far off the beaten track of the brainstorming session. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look over it later. The admin costs, you need something related to admin cost. So if you spend admin points, what would you get out of it? Or what would you have to spend? Like with mill points, it's coupled with manpower. Diplo is kind of coupled with your estates. The admin. Oh, also I need to test this real quick. Okay, good. Yeah, money is already, you can just throw up straight up money without any, yeah, I guess the whole idea is you can use monarch points and manpower and stuff like that in lieu of your own money, right? Canals don't necessarily have, irrigation canals are not necessarily linked with trade or anything like that. They're short distances. The canals generally tend to be long, but not necessarily wide. It could be that you can spend a significant amount of admin points just to reduce the cost by 25% or something. And in that case, because it would be for instance, so you send in, you make it a well-managed project, right? So that it costs less. It would just be a significant amount of admin points. I don't think that may not be unreasonable. Yeah, maybe it's... Yeah, last resort. We're just talking, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we're just talking about irrigation canals. So in farmlands, you had basic irrigation, and then you had larger scale projects that moved water many kilometers and oftentimes even raised it altitude wise. And that was a significant project, and often involved government work and stuff like that. Have you thought about adding the link to the forums in the YouTube description? Which forums, Cowboy? So let's go ahead and add. So for lack of a better solution, so double the military cost, but oh, the Songs of the Aeons. Yeah, forums. That's a good idea. Probably should do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Oh yeah, and by the way, anyone who's showing up here for the first time, I'll be working on my own game, yeah, we have some forums you can visit. The Discord channel, which is currently in the description, and I'm going to put the forum link in there as well. And I also have a Patreon up to help support the effort. Okay. So yeah, let me. I can show it to you. You can see the you can see our forum here. Oops. Oh. Okay. See, talk about Songs of the Aeons core concepts. Well, I need to link my column there. Off-topic discussion about the engine. Oh, and I also have my column went up recently on Gaming Rebellion. I can link that in the chats. Oh, it looks like it looks like the mods are already plunking links in chats. Thanks, guys. Okay. Yeah, it's obviously all a work in progress, but we're having fun with it anyway. Okay. So, the various ways to build canals. Straight up money, which is expensive. You can spend admin points, but only for 25%. You can do Diplo cost, which uses estate manpower. And draws on the manpower of the estates. And then there's a military cost for your own manpower. And so we have 4 ways to build canals. You can use any of them in combination. Okay. Cool. And then we have 3 levels of canals. There were some other possible low-hanging fruit methods. Actually, someone mentioned should canals help flooding? Not really what they were originally made to do. If someone wants to do a little historical research there, that would be helpful. I mean, because it's kind of shunting the water somewhere else, and so the water is still flowing somewhere. And so the issue with flooding has always been an issue of the expansion of the riverbanks, and less to do necessarily with water all of a sudden gushing like Noah's flood down a river. So I'm not sure canals would necessarily help with that. So I'm not sure it would necessarily directly relate to flood control. We do need a better flood control system. Currently, it's a bit incomplete. But yeah, that'll have to be something we sort out for later. New game developer, assume another cost would be time. If you stop the province from being able to build anything for something like 20 years, I imagine that would be punishing. What's the practical? It could get a little tricky code wise, because then you're dealing with AI that might want to build things there too, and then be excluded. Yeah, it could get a little bit complicated. One thing I was contemplating was being able to improve farming efficiency with edicts. Which I believe we removed for now, but we can add them back in. Yeah, then theoretically what you can do is you can have an edict active in a given state, and then the money that would go towards state maintenance, the extra money that would go towards state maintenance would instead go into the value that improves farming efficiency. And your farming efficiency could get increased that way. You could also have another edict which could improve your farm estates and stuff like that, because then it could put the money into the extra maintenance in the local wealth, and then allow the powers there to then build a farm estate or plantations or whatever is appropriate for that province. Just an idea. Having completed the AI attitudes, still a work in progress. New game developer. I remember that the early canals made areas more likely to flood. I wouldn't doubt that last resort. You would get sort of a wider ranging but not as deep flood. Okay, so yeah, you can always go to if you want to post something, you can always go to the Discord channel that we have. Okay, so oh no, where'd my canals go? Oh, I loaded my game. That's right. I made a little cheat event. So that's how canals got in Granada. Oh, so in history, what was pretty common was irrigation canals. It was relatively common for irrigation canals to not go maintained, and so therefore would then be lost. So I'm trying to figure out an appropriate cost system that isn't linear, but isn't too obscure either. because that's what happens, you know, to a lot of the irrigation canals all through Andalusia, and why urbanization declined is because of all of the Reconquista battles and low-grade warfare across the border. Over time, the canals were kind of neglected and forgotten, and they eventually dried up. This also happened in Mesopotamia too. All their canals were lost as well. So having some system there in which you can lose your canals due to neglect, that would be handy. But I don't really know how to do that. I mean, you can do the lazy way and just stick a tax cost onto it, but the cost, remember, scales with the site, you know, with the innate fertility of the province. So you can't just stick a flat. Excuse me. You can't just stick a flat cost on it. So I need something better than that. Something that could I mean, canal. You probably don't want to link canal price to devastation, just because there's no reason why you would just wait. You wouldn't just wait for it to go away. The devastation, right? Right, and you're not going to be in full on build infrastructure mode after your civilization has been sacked, right? Price. You can always have an event that rolls around from time to time that says, hey, maintain your canals, spend this, and this. I'd like to avoid province modifiers too, because we're so packed on province modifiers. And the thing is I don't want to put any more stress and strain on this right here, because so much of the various education budget and stuff like that already goes toward taxation right here, and I don't want to drive it under. I don't want to drive it too low. Yeah. You know, typically, you know, when typically, you know, things like canals weren't maintained persistently. You know, you would, every 10 years there would be, you know, administration would be faced with the need to dig them out again, or you know, the locals would need to. So I almost wonder, because I want there to be opportunities to actually lose your canals, and so I wonder if a 10-year event would roll around and then be like, hey, you got to maintain your canals, otherwise you're going to lose them, or you must maintain your canals, otherwise there is a risk that you can lose them, right? So if you're in the middle of a war, you might have to face the reality that, well, maybe I can't maintain my canals right now, and then you could risk losing them. Yeah, couldn't you add an event that removes canals unless player pays? The fire is only if a province is devastated. I don't know that canals were ever damaged by warfare. I believe the issue was that no administration was prepared to maintain a canal while they were facing an existential crisis. It's like, do I maintain my canals or do I pay the army? You know, it was more of that type of thing. Yeah, King Big Mac. I really dislike the idea of an event that subtracts ducats because those often force me to take loans. Yeah. Can you put education court maintenance under diplomatic expenses or something that don't get percent modifiers? I have been looking for a way to do that. I would love it to be a state maintenance thing, right? It would just be a flat cost, you know. I don't think there's a way to put it in diplomatic expenses. Could be wrong. Let me see. So let's take a look at the list of effects. Yeah, I would kill for just a basic state maintenance type of thing. Yeah, I don't think there's any mechanism that we can use. Unless someone else wants to do research. It's something I looked into quite some time ago as well. Do not think it exists. No. Yeah. Didn't think so. Create a ghost state. Create a ghost state. And then just have everyone give their money to that ghost state. I don't and make them pay reparations or something. The problem is, I don't think there's a way to let's see, yeah, I don't think there's a way to assign reparations or reps. No, yeah, there's no way to assign war reparations. No way to do that either. Yeah, and Flopsy would have found all this stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking, so for instance, the next level is extensive canal network. Which we can possibly add some of those other things like improved CE or something like that. Because yeah, wider, longer canals, for instance, it was used to transport goods, right? So if you had a bunch of guys pulling a barge down a canal, that was a way to transport goods, even easier than roads. It would have to be pretty. I mean, canals aren't gonna give you much CE bonus because it's faster to take a horse anyway. I'll consider that for the higher level of canals. As far as cost on canals, I don't know. Thing is we don't also want to put, we can't use local production modifiers because then it also hits your cities. There's gotta be a way. Yeah, I'm still a little stumped here. See if anyone in Twitch has any ideas. Nope. Yeah. Fortunate. One thing we could do is we can have the event fire that says, hey, you need to maintain your canals. And then just have a decision where then you can pay for it when you want. That way it doesn't drive you into debt immediately. How does that sound? And that would be the easiest way. So it's like, event fires and says, if you don't start paying, in 5 years, then your canals will risk disappearing. Flopsy, I actually came up with an idea. What's your idea, Flopsy? Perhaps weather can have a higher impact on the efficiency of canals. Actually, that could be good for flood maintenance too, Lizzie, you're right. And it's nice to have it come, boom, straight out of ducats. Would it be possible to have the estates pay for the canals? Maybe. That's possible. So we can have a button here when you need to maintain your canals. Or just have it there, like maintain canals. Or as soon as you have a canal, you have to maintain it. And so you can always stay up to date on maintenance if you want. And then have an option there where you're like, hey, estates, you should be covering this. And then you have the usual, spend this or that to get them to do it. Yeah, Flopsy. Theoretically, if we changed one of these to something else and then tried to repurpose it, we might be able to come up with some means. I think my way sounds like it could work just fine. Make it a once every 10-year kind of thing, so it's not bogging down your gameplay, but it's still there, and you still need need to budget it, and it doesn't put any more burden on this already squeezed stat here with taxation. How about the province has no trauma and stable rural population? Canals work fine. Yeah, Ardeum, like I said earlier, it was less. Canals drying up was more an issue of there being lots of conflict and no one really caring about it, and not so much like that damage was done to the canal itself. Yeah, lack of maintenance is the only thing that really did them in. Yeah, Google about British or French canal networks. When was that though? Velikiradokica? Was that later? Was that a bit later in this era though? Was my impression. I'm not. If canals disappear only because of, no, it can't be tied to wealth, because sometimes a lot of wealth is spent. And the player needs to feel like they have recourse to prevent this kind of thing from happening. Right, that's what I thought, Theodosius. Yeah. Whereas, irrigation canals have been around for like medieval, earlier than that. I mean, Babylonians had these types of irrigation canals to some extent too. Could you remove missionary cost and use that slider to determine state maintenance? That would be interesting. I don't know if we have the tools to do that. Because how would we tap into that right there? Well, let's find out. Let's see. Because I would gladly redo the missionary system a bit if it meant that we could actually have a way to let's see, let's just look at all cost. I'm sure Flopsy's saying like, no, it doesn't work. Yeah. Yeah. Looks like people are, yeah. Perhaps a good way to do this is reducing tax production of the canal present province. Cowboy Dang, that would mean that you would be nuking city production and city taxation too, which is iffy. I mean, so Ken, for instance, you're saying I think canal maintenance should just be a reduction in province wealth. I don't. It gets complicated on the code ends and on the balance end. Primarily because you would need a critical mass of infrastructure to be able to plausibly maintain it in a sensible way. And so, for instance, if the player goes and they decide to build a canal here, right? Even though there's no infrastructure whatsoever, it's not going to generate the wealth that's necessary to support it, and so it's just going to die, and the player isn't going to know why. And there's no easy way to create metrics to inform the player that this would happen, you know. And that's why it's complicated to base it off of wealth. Whereas Plunkett and Granada, you can really easily support a canal here because there's a city and it's got a level 2 farm estate. Because of our limited tools, we can't really have a warning thing pop up very easily and be like, don't build a canal here, because of this math and this math and this math. That's why the whole wealth thing is a problem. Now, I think it is sensible for, if we have the decision thing that says, oh, you know, the decision for maintaining canals, or the little state thing for maintaining canals, I think it would be sensible for one of the main options there to be make locals pay for it, make estates pay for it, or pay for it yourself. You know, whereas if you make local wealth or estates pay for it, you use different amounts of monarch points or something like that. And this, you know, this would be a way, if your specific plan was to develop remote places and make it have more population, even though it wouldn't have the wealth to sustain it yourself, you'd still be able to maintain it using state funds, right? Yeah. Ken, you're saying, yeah, an event to pop up to maintain canals. We're kind of getting into micromanaging territory, depending on how many canals you have, and then they're going to be popping up every 10 years or something. Trying to make this as non-micromanagey or obscured and opaque as possible. That's the advantage of just having a button, you know, to do it, and you can either deal with it now or you put it off and risk losing some canals. Easiest way that I can think of. Could be that could run some background calculations so that if there is a lot of wealth, then the cost does not show up. It does not show up when you click the button. So for the entire country, G-Rex, no. But you also don't want an event that ambushes you at unexpected times, saying, oh, we need 5,000 ducats. Oh, you only have 10 ducats? Oh, well, I guess you got to take out 1 billion loans. Sorry. But that's why the interaction button is handy. You can have an event that says, by the way, you're 10 years behind in paying for your canals, better pay soon. Because then you can actually build up the money that you need. You can leverage money from your estates, and then you can pay the bill. But, you know, having an ambush event, you know, could be a problem. I mean, one way to do it is that by default, the canal is paid for with a percentage of province wealth, and then the remainder is covered by the state. And so rich provinces would automatically pay all of the maintenance pretty easily, and then poor provinces would then have to come to you and be like, we're gonna lose our canals unless you help us out. And then the difference in the cost can just be represented here, and it'll continue to build up the longer you put it off, right? And that's an easy way to handle it, because then you can check it at your own rate. You get an event that tells you that, like, it's been too long, you haven't maintained your canals, you need to do it soon. We can also do this method with flood control maintenance too, so that it puts a bigger financial burden on China. Right now, it doesn't really put much of a financial burden on China at all. Like I said, guys, you know, when you're building these types of mechanics, you don't want too many steps to do a simple thing, because it might seem fine in the isolation of hatching the idea, but then when you consider it with all the other things that go on in the game, it can end up being a mechanic that drags on the overall fun factor. And Ken, you can't do a tax malice because you can't translate the cost from tax. So, you know, if you give a tax malice to Netherlands, who only gets money from trading, it's going to cost Netherlands 1/100th of the ducats to maintain their canals as it does for somebody else, right? G-Rex, I understand what you mean, but my issue is not the structure of the events and the payments, but who gets to pay first. Well, that's what I'm saying, G-Rex, is that the wealth would pay first. Whatever's left over, you're stuck with, right? Otherwise, you lose the canal that's in that province or whatever. You underestimate Netherlands. Yeah, I know, Peter. Yeah, church slains. Well, we're trying to avoid as many of these types of percentage, because they're imprecise. You can't track perfect values from any of these, and we're also way over leveraging, you know, the budget system as it is. That's why I want to avoid leaning on this as much as possible, because A, it's multiplied by stuff, and so it screws with your multipliers. B, because people are getting into negatives pretty quickly, especially in more advanced societies, exactly the kind that would be creating canals to begin with. Yeah, G-Rex, that's what I was saying about 5 minutes ago. I don't know, I guess maybe you missed it or something, but no, the idea is you run a background calculation where it examines the ability to pay, and then you get the difference here. Can't you flat decrease the tax bonus from local wealth? Not sure what you mean. You can do it locally, but then you're in the same situation that you were before, where you can end up with negative tax. Yeah, well, I brought it up, G-Rex, in response to what you were talking. I was trying to find a practical way to implement the idea. So, I mean, you know, anytime you're doing development, it's easy to have an idea, but you have to figure out how to actually implement it with the tools that you have in a way that's not too clunky, right? You asked to do some research on canals in the time period canals general. Oh, cool. Let's check it out. Oh, local wealth. Yeah, so the local wealth, you don't at any point want canal maintenance to be reducing this pile of wealth overall, right? Because then you end up in bizarro negative territory, and it's not. People are going to wonder, why is my wealth pool declining? What you want is you want canal maintenance to shave off a percentage of yearly gain, right? And then see if it's a sufficient amount to maintain canals. If it isn't, the difference should be made up by the state, right? That was the idea that I had. So I would have a canal during the wealth calculations in the census event. Where is it? Let me pull up the census event. Okay, so right, so when we're dealing with our wealth calculations, every province is analyzed, right? Trade power, where is it? Okay, here we go. No, this is all state. Okay, so wealth growth, right? After all of these factors are considered, blah, 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 blah. All the multipliers are considered and all that. Method jizya is considered. We can have a variable here. If there's a canal in the province, then we set the cost to maintain that canal, and then we evaluate that cost against the growth of wealth in that province. And then if it doesn't equal 1/4 of the total growth, then local wealth pays for it entirely, right? If there's not enough, if 1/4 does not equal the amount that they must pay, then you take 1/4 of the wealth anyway, of the wealth growth, and then the state makes up the difference. Make sense? So it wouldn't be too difficult. And then you just export the remaining balance due. You export that to a country variable, which is then tabulated in that little menu I was talking about. Then you can pay for it at your leisure. You don't have an event that fires that mugs you for 5 years worth of income or something. Makes sense. Using local wealth basically means you have to avoid looting, pirates, general destruction. Yeah, so this situation is a compromise between general economic well-being of your provinces and the well-being of the central government too. Because in Al-Andalus, the Caliph, in the glory days, the Caliph was pretty intimately involved in the creation and maintenance of public works. So I wouldn't say that the state was never involved in maintaining canals, but it could be there was a continuum of involvement, and in some cases they were purely privatized, private endeavors, and in other cases they weren't. So. Shouldn't roads in theory use the same mechanics? We could. It's a possibility. We could just have a general maintenance type of thing. Same thing with flood maintenance. That would be a general. Once we build the scaffolding for this system, it wouldn't be too difficult to migrate the other systems over, and just have it in one thing that isn't too burdensome. It would be nice too because it would make the maintenance cost of roads not flat, right? So if you have a province with tons and tons of people using the road, it wears down faster, you have to pay more. And then we can take more burden off of tax, which is already quite a bit burdened. So we'll consider that. Yeah, long-term roads would be more durable. So canals do a lot more for you. Consider that too. Okay, and yeah, the difference accumulates somewhere. Remember, so for instance, how about maintenance being a wealth growth reduction in percentage? Now, see, that's the thing, is you can't. One of the philosophies that we formalized with a lot of team members about MNT 2.0 is we want to reduce as many situations where money is materializing out of thin air, right? And so, if two provinces have, 80,000 people and they both have the same level canals, they shouldn't be paying different amounts of money for the same building, for the same canal, just because of squirrely math. All money has to go somewhere and come from somewhere and not materialize out of thin air. So what I found out, thanks Theodosius. Let's get to Theodosius's link here. So what I found out is that trade canals did exist to some extent in the medieval era, even some being built in the 19th century. Well, let's see. Actually, this should be cool. Right, and you can see, water was an important method of transport in Britain prior to the Industrial Revolution. It was used heavily for freight. Basically, to have a working economy, things had to be moved from the place of production to the place of need, and vice versa. And when travel was based on horses, no matter how good the road, there were limits on products in terms of freshness or quantity. Water, which would take more faster, was crucial. There were three key aspects of water-borne trade: the sea, coast, and rivers, right? Let's cut to the chase here. Okay. Many were simply unnavigable, right? People had tried to improve the river network by dredging, widening, cutting past meanders by the start of the 18th century, and canals became the logical next step. Indeed, it was river improvements that gave the engineers of the canals their start, right? That's interesting, actually, kind of. It makes sense that the river would be engineered first. Important industrial areas in Britain. Yeah, so they came a bit later. Let's see. The difference between these canals and those of the 17th and 18th centuries is that later canals were the first with pound locks. Okay. Let me before I forget. Yeah, that sounds like a good evolution, Bell. Going from sort of irrigation canals then to bigger canals, for commerce, plus some more gains in the irrigation department. Okay, so canal maintenance paid first by local wealth if affordable. And for most places, it should be reasonably affordable. And then state makes up the difference. Use a state interaction button once 5 years worth of canal maintenance is due. At 10 years, do fire events. Warning player. At 15 years, do it's time to spend some money. Otherwise, you risk losing canals. Okay, about maintenance of canal to be directly connected to province farm efficiency. Yeah, RDM, the reason I didn't want to rely on, I don't want to lean too heavily on this budget method because it drives taxation. So between court, education, roads, universities, and all of that, it's already driving this value into negatives for a lot of players. And then what it does, it starts doing really weird things once it goes negative because it can make some events that use old code, like yearly income code, instead of costing you money, it gives you money, and instead of giving you money, it can cost you money. It inverts, it makes a lot of problems. So I want to lean on this as little as possible. Yeah, and overextension hits it too. You know, there's a mod suggestion thread. Let's get the M&T army to attack a strategic location. User mods. Let's request let's request something. Nyuk, 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 nyuk. Oh, I hear Mongols. Suggestions for improved modability. What's Flopsy saying? What are you saying, Flopsy? You're always here. Okay. It would be extremely helpful for Meiou and taxes if we could have a how do I phrase this here? Yeah, Jules, sorry, work on religion is indefinitely stalled. And Felak, to answer your question really quickly, does a bunch of stuff. See, Canals. This is just a prototype. Farming efficiency, innate fertility, famine resistance. I want to do this while it's on my own. It would be extremely helpful if, for Meiou and taxes, if we could have a have a what is it? And a state maintenance system. No, but how do I phrase this? Damn it. For my own taxes, if we could have a system where work that grammar. It's funny because I've been trying to find a way to phrase this for like weeks, and I don't know how to do it. So what I want is to have a state, like to have an expense system that just is added to state maintenance. So instead of the budget system here, you see with, you know, budget 8, budget 4, blah, blah, blah. Instead, that money would go straight into state maintenance cost. Except it wouldn't be, it would be the cost of running the state, right? So you don't even need something new. It would just, you'd go here and it would be like, oh, you could have a modifier on something that would, so yeah, so it's, you understand what I'm saying, right? A flat, oh, I know. If we could have a modifier which added a flat amount of money to state maintenance. So for instance, we have a quartz and education system that costs money every month, the amounts of which can be changed by the variable. Unfortunately, right now we have to use an arcane method of subtracting from tax, which has a lot of undesirable side effects. If we instead had a modifier, add X flat amounts to state maintenance, this would be a godsend. Yeah, the only way right now is to improve it, to change it by percent. Peter, what do you mean by why not just add for a variable expense? Yeah, I mean, we could ask for MISC expenses, except now there's a new line. So it's easier. Think about it this way: when you're asking the one dude who gives new mod stuff out, like, you know, at Paradox you've got like one guy who's responsible for modding in like all the games. You're much more likely to get the thing that you want if it's easy for them to implement, right? If you ask them to then make a new interface elements and to make an entirely new variable, you're kind of less likely to get it. But I guess the concern here is that based on their code, it might end up multiplying the expense based on your state maintenance percentage. Well, I mean, you could have a line item here. There's room, right? MISC expenses. Yeah, okay. Let's do that. That'll. I think you're right, Peter. Yeah, and Joel is probably right. So you wouldn't really be saving Paradox very much. I think MISC expense would be the easiest because they already have all of these. So I'm sure they could just make another variable. I'm going to ask for one thing at a time, Peter, see if we can get this one. For Meiou and taxes, if we could have a modifier which added a flat amount of money to some miscellaneous, there we go, miscellaneous expense category, which would not be modified by any income percentage. Well, I guess that's already stands to reason. So for instance, we have a court and education system that costs money every month, the amount of which can be changed by, well, let's say I had player. Fortunately, right now we have to use an arcane method of subtracting from tax, which has a lot of undesirable side effects. And sometimes driving players' tax income into negatives. If we instead had a modifier, add X flat amounts to MISC costs, this would be a godsend. Yeah, we can't hijack harbor fees, Fialak. Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying about development earlier. You can have an idea that's great and works logically, but if you don't have a tool that you can use in order to make it happen, you're kind of screwed. And so if we had access to the source code, then yeah, we could easily hijack something like that. But you have to work with the tools that you have, and none of those tools exist here. I'm going to keep the suggestion as short as possible because longer suggestions generally don't get looked at, Zach. But I mean, that's a good idea. What I'm going to have you guys do, though, is go in and like the comment like 1,000,000 times. It would be extremely... I'm going to post it now and just edit it. It would be extremely helpful for Meiou and taxes if we could have a modifier which added a flat amount of money to some miscellaneous expense category. So for instance, we have a court and education system that costs money every month, the amount of which can be changed. One more thing I wanted to add. It can be right, yeah, and I can mention it can be right under the Conderada macaroni. Speak English. Condottieri. That looks right. Don't even, yeah, you don't know what it is. Spell check either. Jewel, I was thinking, oh my god, what's going on? I screwed up my YouTube page thingy. You know what Theodosius was saying. Instead of dams being involved, we can say extensive canal networks with pound locks. Since that was actually what was historically going on. So. Condo Terrier? Sounds like a dog breed. Okay. Conditor macaroni. Alright. Oh yeah, is that yeah, what was I thinking? Yeah, it wouldn't be under income, it would be under expenses. So it would be under like, that's the problem, is there's hardly any room in the interface as it is. Yeah, I don't think we can put it there because there's too many sliders and shit. Well, actually, what does the vanilla interface look like? Except we may need that contingency that that Zach was talking about. Oh god, this just makes me want to work on Songs of the Aeons that much more. Being confined to Paradox scripts. So frustrating. To have the freedom to just build something the way I want to without being confined. Without having to beg and plead. So no, it wouldn't be added to Conditor, the macaroni. Oh well, I'll just leave it the way it is here. Alright, we're going with it. Oh good, people liked it. Oh, let me get the M&T army on it real quick. So guys, I have a new, in case you missed it, I've got a new development thread since the old one got locked. Because everyone went apeshit in the original one right before beta release, and then they shut it down and they forgot to start it up. Hey guys, I need the M&T army again. I'm requesting a submitted a mod language request to give us a simple MISC expense system. This is more of like requesting a core gameplay feature, though, isn't it? Oh well. That's not really a mod request, is it? It's more of like a... It's more of like a, hey, main divs, add this to the game, please. Oh well. Yeah, we need like drain the marshes and stuff like that. It's gonna take more work. I'm trying to hit the low-hanging fruits for now. Okay, so there we have it. Let's see how many people have. Only 3. Come on, guys, get on it. If you lack, you can't make. There's no tools to do that kind of thing with court and education expenses. We don't have the tools to do it. We've kind of looked high and low, far and wide, as far as repurposing. Oh yeah, post a link. Okay, lazy bums. I'm gonna post a link. Oops, I got too many browsers open. Okay, lazy bums. Well, I'm calling you lazy bums. Please visit my Patreon. And, no, I'm kidding. I'm looking at Twitch chat now. I need to consolidate them. Problem is, there's just not as many people on Twitch chat. Local state maintenance isn't a thing. No, yeah, it isn't. Like edicts and metropolitans give plus local state maintenance. Yeah, it's a very detached variable to TAN. I could be wrong. You know, there's always new stuff being added. These are all global. Oh. So here's the thing with local state maintenance is canals and territories can't use it because they're not states. So it's limited in what you can do with that modifier. Oh, and I got up to the rest of the conversation. You're like, oh, you don't want a monthly modifier. Yeah. Yeah, you're there. I see you, Titan. I love you too. Use the edict system that they use. Okay, so what the hell are we talking about again? Oh yeah, the whole state maintenance thing. All right, so I've made a request, but we have a provisional solution now to the issue of maintaining canals, right? Which should be workable. It'll take a little more work to do. All right, so use state interaction button once 5 years worth of canal maintenance is due. At 10 years, fire event warning player. At 15 years due, it's time to spend some money, otherwise you risk losing canals. Yeah, I've got some Mongols running around in the background. Okay. All right, so I think that covers most of the brainstorming. I think I've got a plan of attack, so it should be relatively easy. This may end up adding a bit to the time that it takes to finish it. It makes up the difference. Use a state interaction button. I would love to. Is it possible for Canals to also be used for trade steering? I don't think there's a local trade steering variable. I mean, there's local. Let's look at all that we have at our disposal. These are all global. These are local. Slinging around trade goods size is kind of a little bit scary. So I'm reserved about you doing anything like that. I mean, there's local trade power. Canal construction was often used to divert trade away from trading rivals or just avoiding canal tolls from other states. Trade steering itself has some very OP multiplier effects. Yeah. So we have 3 levels of canals, right? I don't know if I've localized this yet. Not really. Extensive irrigation canals. And so this is where we were maybe contemplating putting in some trade-related stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so first level, yeah, question is, do we want to bother having trade effects in ladder canals at all, or do we want to make it just all about purely irrigation and population oriented stuff? So for instance, see, we have 10% farming efficiency, 3 base, and 8 fertility. So for instance, on the second level, we can scale up these bonuses a little bit and then start adding in other effects like province trade power or whatever, right? That's a possibility. And then with the polders, it can be even more goods oriented. Yeah, Theodosius, the main purpose of canals in this case is, the reason I made them to begin with was for the farming efficiency and innate fertility question. Population already affects trade. It does, but Yeah, Rothman. I've been asking that question myself. I'd have to figure out which provinces already have lots of irrigation, or already have lots of canals. This could be the case, for instance, in Andalusia, because they have such high farming efficiency, and they did at this point they still did have some canals, which was partly responsible for the high farming efficiency. Elizabeth, the idea is that once you have built the irrigation canals, you can then upgrade to, I mean, I can change the name Extensive Canal Network or something like that, and then have text that says, oh, more trade or whatever. Or we could avoid the issue entirely and just have it irrigation based. Yeah, Rothman, they are. It depends. So you're asking, aren't irrigation canals rather small and short, relatively speaking? Add caravan power to canals. That's an interesting idea, but caravan power is a global stat, I believe. But yeah, irrigation canals could actually be they could be numerous kilometers long, and in some cases even lift water. Yeah, maybe we should just keep canals simple. People were asking for a way to improve farming efficiency and base innate fertility and stuff like that. They wanted more player agency, so it made the simple solution might simply be to go with this and not worry so much about trade aspects, because if we start talking about connecting canals and all that, it's gonna get really. Okay, so yeah, getting into top hat beaver territory, we'll go for now with just being an agency way to improve farming efficiency and population capacity. Yeah. Perfect and simple. Yeah. Keeping it simple. Let's do a straw poll. Straw poll. Just because. Okay. Brainstorm is going pretty good. Games Van Jones. Okay. Yeah, I agree, G-Rex. If there's too much overlap, then ends up being just. Okay, let's go ahead and check the poll. Okay, keep it simple. So we're gonna keep it simple. All right, question now is there anything else to cover as far as developing canals? We can We can revisit the idea of polders later. I know that a lot of people wanted polders, probably mispronouncing it, so I apologize in advance. Yeah, Rothman, that's why they're all called irrigation canals. I can say probably long but narrow. I can explain, but I mean, the fact that irrigation comes before canals, I think kind of explains what's going on. But I can try and make it more clear that this is not like, digging a massive 50-foot wide trench. The thing with these irrigation canals is that, it's like the picture that Theodosius furnished us. These were relatively narrow and not really very deep. You didn't want them to be, because when you needed to raise the water too, you didn't want to have to build significant infrastructure to raise the water to other terrain. So these were narrow. You could easily have guys standing in them with spades, digging it. It was just that you had to dig a considerable distance. Yeah, and these... And, yeah, so that's what we're going with. Polder correctly, yeah. Lots of people said they wanted polders, but it would be a bit of work to do something that pretty much not many places used. Most of them were in the Netherlands, and it was a huge part of the Netherlands, but it's a flavorful thing specifically for Netherlands that would take a lot of work. If someone else wanted to clone a lot of the irrigation code and redo it so that it worked for polders, that would be okay. Yeah, cowboys, seriously. And Michael, you're saying, yeah, rename them irrigation networks, but yeah, lots. It's not quite the same thing, because you can have irrigation directly off a river and irrigation network directly off a river just fine, and that's part of what that would overlap with, with part of what farming efficiency represents. You can irrigate, off of a mountain stream and things like that. Okay, and then there was the issue of aquifers too. So aquifers in Persia, the Canals, or whatever you want to call them, which would give Persia a lot of flavor, and they would allow Persia, which is generally pretty mountainous and doesn't have a lot of rivers, to actually be able to have the significant population it had historically. Once the Mongols rolled through and then Timur rolled through, it pretty much destroyed their infrastructure for bringing up water from the aquifers. But Rothamon, there probably won't be a heck of a lot of canals at game start. Even though there was a lot of irrigation, there wasn't a lot of... The thing is, you can do small scale irrigation on a river as a private citizen or as a peasant or as a lord without having to plan a whole lot. But when you wanted to make these large scale canals, they moved through so many farms and moved through so much land that it took a lot of planning and a lot of coordination, and that's why they're fundamentally different than just conventional irrigation. That's why you didn't see them everywhere. The kind of canals that you saw in Andalusia and with the Khmer in Indochina were significantly different and significantly larger achievements. Yeah, I agree, Theodosius. I cannot grammar. Alright, so I might put off the aquifers and the polders for later. Go for the low-hanging fruits for now that aren't geographically specific. Remember, canals in this case is supposed to be like your golden age objective. Like, okay, your country's doing great. I want to drop my money someplace. And so then you build canals. Like, this is not something you would build as a rural society with not a lot of... So if you're in Lithuania around game start, you're not going to be building these irrigation canals all over the place. It's only after you become that urban society and you've got money to blow that you begin to... Right, that you build irrigation canals. Or if you want to play as Ireland and become super urban and have money, but you want to hang out in Ireland but be able to increase your population, then you can build the irrigation canals to do that. Alright, so we have a plan. We know what we want to do. So I'm going to allocate about a week as far as development is concerned. And then I'll figure out what to do from there. I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between working on Songs of the Aeon stuff, new game developer stuff, and Meiou and Taxes stuff. And once again, if anyone hasn't done it yet, go ahead and swing by our Discord channel and see what the new game developer project is all about, along with our game Songs of the Aeons. And of course, I have a Patreon as well that you can visit if you want to support the Songs of the Aeons game that we'll be making, or the new game developer in general. And catching up with everyone's comments, but alright, so I think that should be just about enough for now. I'll get going on Canals. I'm not going to do any active development while streaming anymore, because that's a great way to kill your subscriptions, or to your subscribers. So I'm going to avoid that, as no one wants to stare at code all day, but some people do like to participate in brainstorming. Let me go ahead and put up the Noob Game Developer Forum in the description, and I will also try and get it in the rest of my videos as well. Alright, anything anyone else can think of yet? Yeah, please replace sailors with timber. I'm not sure how much Cardinal's going to be actively developing anymore, and that is his system, so yeah, I don't know. A bit of an endeavor to replace something like that. Stream development on Twitch only then. Yeah, I may do that, Kazera, since they actually, that might be a good idea. Since they actually have a creative category, so no one comes in thinking, oh, this is supposed to be, you know, a Meiou and Taxes game, or a Europa Universalis 4 game. Yeah, Rothman. So this should help with the whole low population issue. It should allow you to grow bigger in backwater places. The only Twitch thing would help transition people over there too. Yeah, I agree. And the thing is I'm trying to figure out how to become an associate or something of Twitch, so people can sub me on Twitch as well. Trying to get the whole monetization thing down, you know, so I can start peeling back my day job, you know, for my projects. Yeah, and I'm afraid I won't be continuing my game as the Romans, because I want to spend more time developing and less time just playing video games. And I've gotten super sick lately, so it's just taken a lot of time out of the development process. So I'm ready to get back into it all. Yeah, sorry, Soy. It was fun. I had so much fun with that game, but with my very tight schedule already, it's too difficult to set aside 100 hours or something for a game. 50 to 1,000 viewers per stream. I thought it was like 1,000 total or something, and then oh well. May not be practical to get subs on Twitch then, but I'll continue streaming from Twitch. Yeah, Twitch partners, that's right. So you gotta be, because I don't even think a Roomba gets like 1,000 views per stream. Yet he's a partner. I'll have to look it up. Okay. What's the difference, Filak, between partner and associate? Yeah, regular broadcast schedule. That's so damn hard with my life. I mean, theoretically, would be able to reliably stream on Saturday, but it's kind of up in the air during the week, depending on whether I can get someone to watch the kids. So that's a little tough. Regularly stream 3 times a week. The real question is, how many canal types will we have in SOTE? Okay, Flopsy, thanks. I believe we have code already flagging all of the river provinces, so we should be good in that regard. Okay, well, I guess we're good then. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the stream now. Thanks everyone for showing up. Not sure when I'll be able to stream again. I got a lot of stuff to do with work to get out of the way before I can really double down on streaming and development. But I'll probably go ahead and let everyone know in the in my new development thread when the streams will be. So go ahead and hang out there. I did want to do a few streams pertaining to Songs of the Aeons. I was going to stream a few of the games that inspired me to make a game like it in the future, maybe 2 weeks from now or something like that. Alright, but anyway, thanks for showing up. I will... Oh, no pony stream? Oh, I think I got the Mongol around someplace. Let me go see if I can find her. She wanted to play some Pinkie Pie Adventures. I kept putting her off, but let me go find out. Oh, wait. I have... yeah.
pay by the pony. I want to pay by the pony. By the pony on the TV.
Let's play My Little Pony on the TV. Okay. Let's see. Can you say hi, internet? Hi, everybody.
Hi, internet. Hi, internet.
That's the pop filter.
Hi, internet.
Okay, yeah, that was the pop filter. Okay. Pinkie Pie Adventure.
Hello, internet. Hello. Want to fix it? We'll fix it.
Yeah, we'll fix it. Pink.
I want this one.
Okay, Pinkie Pie. Horror game. No, we don't want that.
I need this one. This one right here.
Okay, I'm trying to find it. Is this it? I don't think this is it.
This is not it.
No, this is not it. Maybe.
Not it.
No. Huh. Where is... No, where did the Pinkie Pie game go? Oh wait, this must be it. No, wait, what? I do have Flash installed. Don't be silly. Pinkie Pie Adventures.
Pinkie Pie choice.
Yeah, where is it? Well,
No.
maybe it is here. Let's see.
Ooh. That's not it. It's not it.
It's not. I know it's not it, but maybe it'll show up.
I need.
Here, let's look over here, because you never know. Pinkie Pie Adventures.
I don't want Pinkie Pie Adventure.
But you don't want Pinkie Pie Adventures?
I want Pinkie Pie Adventure.
You do want Pinkie Pie
I want
Adventures.
Pinkie.
Let's try this one.
I want Pinkie Pie.
Pony games.
I want Pay by the Pony. I want Pay Pinkie Pie.
Okay, yeah. Oh, okay. I think
Need this one right here.
this one right here. Oh yeah.
This
Oh,
one
here it
right
is.
Here.
Yay, we
I
found
need
it.
I need Pinkie Pie.
I made the food for her.
I need Pinkie Pie. I need Pinkie Pie.
Okay, yeah, we got it. We got
I need
Pinkie Pie.
Pinkie Pie.
Okay.
I need Pinkie Pie.
Yeah, you need Pinkie Pie like oxygen.
I need Pinkie Pie. I don't want Pinkie Pie Adventure.
You don't?
I don't want Pinkie Pie Adventure.
You don't. What do you want then?
I need Pinkie Pie.
Well, okay, this is Pinkie Pie.
I don't want Pinkie Pie Adventure. I don't want Pinkie Pie Adventure.
Sure?
I don't want the Pinkie Pie Adventures.
Okay. What do you want then?
I need
Parenting.
Pinkie Pie.
Okay, so you
I
need
need this one.
this. Ooh, Canal Defender. How about this one? Yeah. Sick twist.
No.
I have no idea what we're clicking here.
Oh, that is Pinkie Pie.
Pinkie Pie confectionery game. Okay, we're gonna try this one. Okay, nothing seems to be working. Can the stream stand this game? Okay, I guess that game does not work. Let's look for another one. What? Yes, play game. I don't...
I need
How about...
this one. I need this one.
Ooh, racing is magic. Okay, let's do this one. No, it wants me to download something strange. Internal server error, no. Okay. Coloring books, circus fun.
I want this one.
This one, Fabulous Pony Maker.
I want this one.
Let's keep looking. Let's look for something actually fun.
This one right here, right here.
Equestria Challenge. How about this one? This one wants me to install something weird. Wow, this Ellie stream is turning into a real bust. Cupcake Maker.
I like it.
Yes.
You see?
Okay, loves cupcakes. Help her match the correct color of frosting with the matching cake. This seems like an actually appropriate game for a toddler, actually. Let's see. Match up the cupcake piece. Okay, I think I got it. Oh my god! No, it's not. Okay, see we go here. Woo! See we put cupcake. I guess I should have read the rules. You can drag stacks of cupcakes too. Just click on the cupcake piece you want. Oh, I see. So it's gonna stick the cupcake wherever it wants to go. See? This is a little too esoteric for you, I think. This cakes kind of look like turds, I'm not gonna lie. Guess I should have read the rules. What is going on? Fine, I'll read the instructions. Cupcake bottom, for example. I see. Okay, so like this. Boom. We won! See, this sort of has to do with ponies. So you want something with Applejack now. Oh my goodness, this is getting complicated. Let's see if we can find something with Applejack in a second. Okay, we'll find an Applejack game. Yay! Okay, we're gonna find a different game. Let's see. My Little Pony puzzles. Let's see. Alright, let's see if we can find an Applejack game.
You see? Oh yeah. You see?
Ooh, Pony Platforming Project. Sounds like a plan. What country is this? Okay, here we go. That's pretty epic. One fine day when Applejack was innocently walking through the woods. Okay, how do I... Owlbear, sounds of them! And that's the entire story of this game so far. Wow.
What do the Applejack cupcake? What do the Applejack...
Look, we're gonna fight the owlbear. That's kind of funny. How do we jump? How do we jump? How do we jump? Okay, there we go. So look. So look. Wah! So you can kick. Kick. Oh no! Boom. See? Woo! Watch this. Whoops. Ah! Okay, I guess that still works. So watch. Wah! Can I kick him? Come back here. Kick.
Maya got to kick.
Maya got the kick. By the way, like, Ellie is assigned has assigned everyone in the family a pony, and so her little sister is Applejack.
Boy.
Impressive. Wow, wasn't that funny? Maya kicked him. I think there's a way to run somehow. Maybe. Yay! Ah! Oh, that's how you get life. That's nice. Yeah, Daddy is Rainbow Dash. Mommy is Fluttershy. Oh, okay. Ah! looks like a secret, maybe? Yeah. Just bad programming. Got him! Oh, can we jump on them and hit them? Ah, yeah, okay. Actually, someone put a...
cupcake.
Oh, maybe there are some cupcakes around someplace. Let's see. There's some pretty scary effects. Ooh, floating islands. There's a blue pony here. Come one, come all. The great and powerful Trixies offering one-of-a-kind deal. Giving away one special magic item of your choice. The great powerful Trixie and infinite generosity. Okay. Oh, wow, an item system. Oh, use the mouse to choose. The golden heart increases your health and gives you 5 hearts. Yay, thank you, great and powerful Trixie. Just might as well have a life here. When you get a little older, you can probably have some fun with this game. Oh no, I lost a life permanently? Yay, there's a boss. Okay, what's it gonna be?
What's it gonna be?
The game, it just crashes. Okay.
It just crashes.
It crashes, yeah. All right.
It crashes.
Well, I guess that's it. Okay. Da 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 da. All right, we'll go. We'll go do other things now.
Where are we going, Daddy?
Where are we going? Okay, we'll watch Twilight Sparkle fight stuff, right? That's what you want to see? Okay. All right, so I guess that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that boss. I don't know how you beat that boss. All right. Okay, so say bye to everybody. Ellie, say bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. See, everybody's up there. You gotta wave up there.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, bye-bye. Stopping stream.